Are you ready to continue the space odyssey that is Expeditionary Forces? And is it worth your time? Welcome back to another edition of Drotalks Audiobooks. Dro here, and today we're going to be talking about Expeditionary Forces, books 3 through book 7. These books are written by Craig Ellenson and narrated by the Master R.C. Bray. Before we get started, if you are an audiobook enthusiast like myself, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, like this video or dislike it if you didn't enjoy this content. And with that said, let's jump into it. So as I was getting ready to continue the series review of this, what I personally think is a fantastic series, something did occur to me which did lead me down a rabbit hole and did actually make me ponder, is this series actually good? The reason for this is because I did come across one huge negative with this audiobook series, and that is it is repetitive. If I were to make an individual video for each one of these books, I would be saying the same thing over and over again, which really led me to wonder, what's the deal with my taste in audiobook series? Because every time this book drops, I am immediately downloading it, I am immediately listening to it, and I, to be honest with you, am enjoying it. So as I was going through this, I came up with a theory. For those of you that have ever seen the TV show Friends, and some of my younger viewers out there maybe have not, for those of you that are younger and have not heard of Friends, ask your parents, they'll tell you about it. So the enjoyment of this audiobook series is going to rest on the type of series that you watch in general, and I'm going to use Friends as an example. If you were the type of person that was very irritated by the off again romance between Ross and Rachel, then you're probably not going to like this series. But if, even though they kept rehashing that same plot line over and over again in new and creative ways, and you found a lot of enjoyment out of that series, I think you will enjoy this audiobook series. So with that little disclaimer out the way, let's talk about some key points of each of the next books. Very mild spoilers here, you are safe. Don't worry, you can watch this video, nothing will be spoiled. So before we get into books 3 through 7, I was wondering, why do I enjoy this series so much if it is very repetitive? And if you go into any of the reviews, you'll see that is brought up time and time again, that they keep rehashing out some of the same plots. And there's some of the same plots that I mentioned in my very first 2 books, and this is a very valid criticism. So what are those main plot points? Well, you have Skippy the Magnificent, who's an advanced AI who can get our band of space pirates out of pretty much any situation, but he lacks creativity. He is an AI, and that creative portion of him does not work. And that leaves us with Sergeant Bishop, Captain Bishop, the commander, the captain of the space vessel, to come up with some monkey brain ideas. And between Bishop and the magnificent almighty Skippy, they seem to always save the day. So although the situations change, that dynamic is valid throughout each and every book, and it repeats several times within the book. So since this dynamic is so repetitive, what kept me engaged in the story? I kept asking myself, well, the world building, or I guess the universe building in this case. Craig Ellenson did a really good job of opening up some unanswered questions, and those questions start to compile and they get answered very slowly. And I'll be honest, I think the majority of them get answered. I shouldn't even say that, probably not the majority, but a portion of them get answered in book 7. It's these unanswered questions that keep you intrigued and really waiting for the next books. But what keeps you listening to these books, at least on my part, the audiobook, the back and forth between Bishop and Skippy and the rest of the crew, some personal development between Bishop within himself, within his crew, within his abilities, within his confidence, and actually the humanizing element that is happening with Skippy. All these make each story very enjoyable. These are very funny, lighthearted sci-fi books. There's actually a little bit of political nature, type of Game of Thrones. Not that heavy, not that well told, but it is there between all these alien races. So it's the universe building that makes each one of these stories actually worth going back for. So with all that disclaimer talked about, discussed to length, let's kind of go into what are the highlights of each book, starting with book 3. Book 3 is called Paradise, and our band of merry pirates go back to Paradise to check on the humans that were left there, the ones that were actually Bishop and the majority of his team actually escaped from. And it's not looking good for our people on Paradise. The Ruhar are planning just to turn over the planet back to the Kristang. Once that's done, humanity is going to be enslaved, because even though the Ruhar are scientifically more advanced than us, they are a fairly fair species and do allow humans to exist in their own portion of the planet, and actually engage with us socially. So I mean, the Ruhar are actually not a very bad alien species. The Kristang see us as inferior, as slaves, as fodder, as sport. So this is a very bad situation. So the entirety of this book is Bishop and Skippy and their crew looking for creative ways to ensure that the Ruhar do not hand over Paradise to the Kristang. The other great aspect of book 3 is this is actually what launches the B characters, or the B team if you will. You know, the space pirates are the A team. A group of characters that are left on Paradise are the B team. And this is actually a novella that takes place with solely the characters on Paradise. Is actually led to a spin-off called, what's it called? I believe it's called the Mavericks series, but don't quote me on that. Now with book 4. Book 4 takes place right after book 3, and as our band of merry pirates seem to save the day, there's always a new threat, and this time it's the threat of the Kristang sending some ships to Earth to see what's going on, because they have lost communication with their people that they left in charge. You gotta understand, the Kristang believe that Earth is still under Kristang control. They have no idea about the band of merry pirates, and if they get there, this is going to result in the secret of humanity actually being a spacefaring species, thanks to the almighty Skippy getting out, which is bad juju for humanity. But this time, the band of merry pirates decide to think further. How can they delay not only this visit of the Kristang, but future visits? And that results in a specialized Black Ops mission that is actually very intense, very enjoyable, and probably one of the stronger books in the series, in my opinion. Now with that said, let's jump to book 5. Book 5 is called 0 Hour, and book 4 ends in a pretty big cliffhanger. I'm not going to give it away, but 0 Hour is a special mission all about Skippy, because Skippy goes from Skippy the Magnificent to Skippy the Meh. There's a roach motel, there's a lot of elder technology going around in here, and there's the very first contact with humans and the Maxals. All this is a very action-packed and, as always, very entertaining book. Also one of my more favorite ones in the series. So now, let's jump to book 6. Book 6 is called Mavericks, and I would actually consider book 6 one of the weaker books in the entire series. It'll probably be book 2 is the weakest, book 6 is probably the second weakest. But it is a very entertaining series, and a lot of good items do develop. But here you spend about half the book with the B team and half the book with the A team. There's other crisis on Paradise that will endanger the entire human race that lives on Paradise, and it's up to the B team to save the day. And the A team, you know, is there to provide support. I'll leave it at that. Next to book number 7. Book number 7 actually starts off with our band of merry pirates becoming actual pirates. With no spoilers, or very little spoilers here, let's just say that Bishop and his ragtag team have to steal the spaceship to save humanity once more. The greatest thing about book 7 is that you do start getting a lot of closure to some of those plot elements that Craig Ellison opened up. Not all of them are closed, and he still got me waiting for book 8. There's a 7.5 that I still gotta listen to, but I'm gonna go through 7.5 and hopefully he hurries up and drops us book 8, and hopefully that ends this story arc, or he ends it by book 9 at the most, because again, as I mentioned in the beginning, it does start to get a little bit repetitive. But up until now, up until book 7, I have truly enjoyed myself, and I would recommend this series to anyone. But I did want to put that out there, because as I was trying to develop this series, it did come very clear to me that I'm really going to be saying the same thing over and over again. And just the goal of our merry band of pirates changes, but the system, how they get to the goal, solve the goal, and recover from the goal is pretty much the same formula. But lucky for me, I absolutely love Skippy. And if you give this book a chance, I think you will love him too. So have you listened to Expeditionary Forces? And if so, do you like Skippy as much as I do, or do you dislike Skippy? Comment below, let me know. And as always, thank you for listening to Drotalks. It's always a pleasure to make these videos for you. If you do like audiobooks, or you do like books in general, or these type of videos, please do me the favor of hitting that like and subscribe, ringing that bell to get notified, and we'll see you next time.